This is called Cuts, aka Gore. This is at Coorock, COORAC.itch.io/Gore, GORE dash CUTS. Cuts, that is, collecting useful things system, is a response to the lack of rules in the tabletop role-playing game mechanics for disassembling fallen beasts. Regardless of whether you need the rules for hunters hunting bears among snow peaks, you have a Witcher-like player, or if your team wants to know what they can do with dragon scales once they manage to kill it, Cuts is the answer to all these needs. A must-have supplement for every bestiary, book of monsters, and other manuals that tell you how to kill a particular beast, but don't mention what you can do with it after that. Supplement was prepared as part of the second edition of the 3x3 Game Jam. All right, well, I'm not going to download it. So let's just see. Well, let's see. It looks like there's enough here, I think, between these 3 pages we can get a sense of what it is. Okay, but that's not in English, so that doesn't help me at all. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. Let's see. Can we get an English one? Oh. Is this one English? Nope. None of the screenshots are English. Okay. All right, I am going to download it now. Apologies. Hopefully some folks, if you find this interesting, will download it so that I don't feel terrible for grabbing it so we can look at it. All right, this is Cuts, Collecting Useful Things System, role-playing game supplement created as part of the second edition of the 3x3 Game Jam by Jacob Skrzyński. Apologies if I butchered that name. Note, the text contains descriptions of the quartering of animal corpses, topics related to hunting and mental illness. I thought that sensitive people might want to be warned before reading. That's thoughtful. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not trying to be snarky. Let's zoom in here. The exploration of unknown lands is inextricably linked with planning and preparing supplies for an expedition. Supplies, however, wear out, and there is not always time or opportunity to return to the settlement and buy rations. Then it's time to hunt. In the wild, you can also look for rare ingredients from the bowels of magical beasts, hidden deep among bushes, high peaks, or inaccessible clefts. Some of the trophies may help you survive the journey, and others may be an expedition's goal in itself. Eventually, during the journey, it happens that some of the equipment breaks. The handle of the axe breaks, the tent gets holes, or the sword gets chipped. Instead of turning back on your way, you can look at what has torn a shelter or warped weapons and find a way to make up for what that pest has spoiled. To help settle such situations, whoops, hold on a minute. All right, now I guess I wasn't sure whether we were supposed to. I think column runs here, column A, column B, and then cross. So, okay, sorry for that. Caught me out of my rhythm. To help to settle such situations during play in an interesting way, Cuts was created. Ultimately, there are to be universal rules, so they are based on the assumption that the game uses hit dice, armor class, or different damage dice for different attacks. I tried to present an alternative to resolving such situations in systems where such statistics do not occur. Cuts was written with fantasy worlds in mind, but after switching from alchemy to chemistry, it should adapt to more modern and futuristic settings. If the description refers to a skill or attribute test, it usually indicates the easy, average, hard, or very hard difficulty level of the challenge. Translating the description into the difficulty of the test will depend on the game system you're going to use. At the same time, if the text says that something is easy, or that it is sometimes hard, and the adjective is in bold, this indicates the degree of difficulty of a possible challenge in the session. If there are no attributes or skills in a given game, an easy test is equivalent to rolling at least 3 on d6, average at least 4 on d6, hard 5 on d6, and very hard 6 on d6. The advantage in the test means rolling 2 dice and choosing a higher result. Disadvantage, rolling 2 dice and choosing a lower result. Disadvantages and advantages cancel each other out. I do appreciate that they gave both how you might manage this in a system that has a specific challenge, what's the word I'm looking for, adjudication system, and then also, hey, if you don't have that, or maybe you do and it's complicated, you don't want to mess with that, just roll a d6 and here's how you do it. So I appreciate that. What can be obtained from a killed creature depends on several factors. Its size, vitality, resistance, type of attacks, and other innate abilities. Almost always, acting in a hurry makes the actions described below disadvantageous. Failure to obtain or process a given resource, apart from other consequences described, generally means its destruction. Okay, failure to obtain or process a given resource apart from other consequences generally means destruction. So basically, you're going to get a chance to do something, but if you don't, you can't just endlessly try it. It's like you get an attempt to do it. If you do it, great. If you fail, you're most likely not going to be able to try again. It's a one-time deal, and this is blood orange and orange juice seltzer water for the working man. Trader Joe's is quite delicious. If you want to sponsor me, Trader Joe, reach out. I am not affiliated with Trader Joe's. Looks like we have a table here. So one columns that looks like you're looking at the size of the creature. Less than small, rabbit, fish, or duck, or velociraptor. I don't think a velociraptor qualifies as that small. Have they seen Jurassic Park, or does my conception of what a velociraptor looks like different from theirs? Because I'm guessing velociraptors seem to be, at least in the movies, more in the medium category. I don't know. Ian Boy says a Trader Joe's sponsorship is the dream. Yeah, it is. It's one of many dreams. So we got small, so we got less than small, small, medium, large, great, and then giant. You can probably, they have the examples in the categories make sense for the most part. I'm not sure on Velociraptor, but I wouldn't doubt it if the movies amped up their sizes and the reality is that they are smaller, but that seems pretty small for them. Otherwise, Stratman Kudzu says real velociraptors are the size of turkeys. All right, so there you go. Well, then that would fit right in there. Though turkeys aren't that small. Well, they're smaller than sheep, so yeah, okay. Maybe they should call that tiny. I don't know why less than small. Just call it tiny. But maybe they felt like tiny would give people the wrong idea that they would think that rabbits aren't tiny. I don't know. Fair enough. All right, so then we get some, these rows here look like, I don't know what. So we get meat portions and exhaustion treatment. I guess we're going to get what these mean in a minute. The meat portions look like you're rolling a die, and the die size keeps increasing until you get to D20, and then you start getting multiples of D20s. Exhaustion treatment is measured in levels. At first, it's 1, then 2, and then you start dicing for levels. Weapon damage goes from D4 all the way up to 2D10, and the amount of substance we just get in ounces, starting with 1 ounce, and then start dicing for ounces. The size of turkeys and just as vicious. Yeah, that would be, it would be good to do a realistic Jurassic Park. So you get feathered dinos and tiny but still vicious velociraptors. I'd be curious I'm surprised they haven't done that. Well, they probably have some Nature Channel going back and looking at the facts and fictions. Not really in terms of the technology, because I remember they would do those shows about could you really get a dinosaur out of amber and whatever, but more like how are their actual how they're actually shown in the movies, how different that is from what we think they actually were in terms of size and how they act and all that jazz, their behaviors. So we have meat and fat. Harvesting them usually requires one easy testing of attribute or skill. The right tools, cleaver, knife, hook, or adequate experience can give you an advantage. Failure to do so means that there will be 2 times less meat and other parts of the body, such as skins or bones, will be damaged. The number of portions that can be obtained from one creature depends on its size. The amount of fat that can be obtained depends on the type of creature, but usually for every 3 portions of meat that you carve out, you can carve out 1 portion of fat. Remember that while obtaining meat can be quite easy, for some creatures an additional challenge is to prepare it properly and safely. Instead of preparing portions and supplies, you can have a feast that will satisfy your hunger and cure long-term fatigue or exhaustion. Each level of exhaustion in the exhaustion treatment represents the ability to heal 1 level of such or similar condition in 1 entity. For example, a feast of 1 sheep will allow you to heal 2 levels of exhaustion in 1 person, or 1 level each in 2 wanderers. I really like this a lot. This concept of having a feast. Hey, you've downed this creature, or let's just say it's a sheep. You can cut it up and have rations for, what do they say for a sheep? D6 number of rations. It seems a little bit low, actually, but whatever. Or you can blow it all on the feast. If you blow it all on the feast, if you have party members who have exhaustion, it's kind of like this extra bit you can do. And you can, of course, work in things like, well, how much time does it take? If you're using some kind of expedition turn, you're in the wilderness, you're traveling, it might take you a 3-hour stretch to do all the feasting things that's on top of the hunting and everything else. So you're spending time, but you're doing so in a way. And of course, you might think about, well, if you're feasting in an area that's dangerous, chances are you're probably going to get some extra roll for things coming to find you, because you're literally not trying to be quiet and hidden. You're having a feast. You're making a bonfire. You're roasting vast quantities of some kind of animal and meat, so the scents are going to go way out in the woods, right? You're kind of making a spectacle of yourself to a certain degree, but if you pull it off and you do manage to be undisturbed, then you get back an extra bit of exhaustion, get some energy back. Pete Giant says, check out the cassowary bird. It's kind of equivalent of a velociraptor that is in existence. All right, cool. I'll check it out. On to claws, teeth, feathers, and spikes. Obtaining a complete set of the correct parts in the correct condition requires an average attribute or skill test. Adequate experience can give an advantage. Failure to obtain these materials irreversibly damages the surrounding tissues of the corpse, their skin, guts, parts of the head, etc. The damage table below, or table row, indicates how much damage a weapon, one melee weapon, or a supply of ammunition for a ranged weapon made from the acquired fragments can do. The easiest to rework are the teeth, spikes, and claws of small creatures, which are easily made into arrowheads and bolts. Other uses or larger trophies either require average skill or allow the easy creation of a primitive, brittle, and vulnerable weapon. As a rule, unless we're talking about creatures endowed with magical abilities, then such trophies in a raw or processed state can duplicate the power of that a creature had during its lifetime. The claws or teeth themselves do not produce toxins that could be covered with during the life of the creatures. Obtaining these types of substances requires going deeper. So there's definitely some interesting things here. I don't know that I would have these things doing more damage, especially if they're not magical. For example, if I make a club out of elephant tusk, I don't think it does more than a club made of anything else. I would even maybe argue that ivory as the substance does less than if I had a stone, hard wood. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where ivory is on the hardness scale or the brittleness scales, whatever. But I don't think it would necessarily do more damage. It makes more sense to me with things that are super, that we think of as being kind of supernaturally sharp or supernaturally hard. But I don't know. This is where I might do something different with that. And size doesn't always tell the tale. Some things might have super sharp, like a velociraptor may have super sharp claws that a D4 doesn't do justice to. And I usually use just flat D6 damage, so I definitely wouldn't want the players to be able to go, hey, we took down an anaconda, and suddenly we were doing basically double the damage they were doing before. Might need to mess around with that, but it's interesting, which I can appreciate. The next section of the table, amount of substance, indicates how many ounces, parenthetically portions, of a given resource can be obtained for use in a technological, alchemical, or magical process. Whether it's to pulverize the fangs, secure the ailerons, or pickle the claws, in most cases this will require additional tools or even a properly equipped workshop or laboratory. All right, so that's that amount of substance. So if you're looking for something, let's say you needed the saliva of a velociraptor for some kind of alchemical process, if you're able to properly harvest a single velociraptor, you would get 1 ounce of the saliva. Something like that. Leather, fur, and scales. Removing the skin from a corpse in such a way as not to damage it and make it suitable for trade or processing is in most cases a task of average level of difficulty. And appropriate equipment or adequate experience can provide an advantage. In the case of scales, as a rule, the smaller they are, the harder it is to do it efficiently enough to get enough to be something more than just a souvenir. Failure to do so in this test, in addition to destroying the skin, will have the number of meat and fat portions that would normally be obtained from that creature. All right, I think I'm going to just kind of scroll through these a little bit quicker. I don't want to get super bogged down, but this got some really nice stuff. You're looking for things for hunting and harvesting. So we have leather, fur, and scales, and we get bones and tendons, eyes and tongue, secretions and blood, glands and guts. So what I like about this is they're being generic in the terms they're using, so that like I was saying before, or in one of those other examples, like we just saw in that treasure thing, hey, I got the it's a fire salamander, and I, as the GM, go, that fire comes from a gland that's inside there. I could pull up the supplement and say, okay, we're talking about a gland. Just go down to glands and guts. All right, it's very hard. Or, oh, I think it's in their blood. All right, well, that's hard. Or whatever it is. So it's very easy to figure things out. And let's say for me, I'm using basically vanilla BX, and I want to just use that D6 roll because I don't want to use I don't want to make the adjustments to rolling under an attribute. Then very hard. It's got to roll 6, and then if they have some tools or something, I can give them advantage, something like that. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we get a whole table of properties of substances. So we get columns for description of the properties, if you botch it or if you overdose. That's interesting. And then in the rows, healing, we get to kind of types of substances: healing, elemental energy, magical energy, adaptation, boost of vitality, clarity of mind. And that's the end. So very simple document. I'm not going to read through the table, but if you like it, go pick it up. I'll just reiterate where we were. This was Cuts, aka GORE. Very cool little supplement. It's pay what you want. I think they're asking for $4 or $5 maybe. I think it might not give me the price again. Oh, $2. I didn't even say $2. I think I would think that's well worth 2 bits. And it's also in, is that Polish? If you're Polish, you could get it in your native tongue. Cool stuff.